Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Soul Rising podcast. We are all in on love, loss, and connection here. My name is Amanda McCoy Flanagan. I am thrilled to have you here today with us. If this is your first time here, welcome. You're in for a treat. We always have excellent guests. And today I usually say my friend or my coworker or somebody, but today I have somebody I'm just meeting for the first time right now. And we already, I feel like, love each other. So a fellow New Yorker, super cool. We have Karen Salmansohn, best-selling author and behavioral change expert, whose books and courses have sold more than 2 million copies, amazing, worldwide. With 1.5 million social media followers, Karen has built a dedicated following by blending humor, research-backed insights, and practical strategies for creating a more meaningful life. In her upcoming book, You're to Die for Life, How to Maximize Joy and Minimize Regret Before Your Time Runs Out, she challenges readers to rethink their relationship with mortality, not as something to fear, but as the ultimate motivator for living boldly and authentically. And I was telling Karen before we pressed record how I saw this email come in and I was like, yes, I want her on this show because you seem to talk very, I wouldn't say flippantly, it's not flippantly, but just so real about the fact that we all die. It's inevitable. And really, how can we maximize this joy that we have now, right? So welcome, Karen. How are you today?
I am great. It's so good to be here. I do feel like long lost friend. Here you are.
I love it. Me too. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about maybe like what got you into this work, what motivates you? Because grief, death, this isn't something we just wake up one day and say, I'm gonna get into the death and grief world.
I have two answers for that. The first one is sort of like the quirky, amusing answer. And then the second one is the deeper, more griefy answer. So I'll start with the easier one. And that is, I say that I didn't write this book because I had a near-death experience. I wrote it because I had a near-life experience. And if you don't know what near-life experience means, that's okay because I made it up. It's not a book.
It's so cool. It's awesome.
But you probably know what it is, even though I invented the word for it. It's when you're on your phone so much, you're distracted, you're in autopilot, you're worrying about the future, you're regretting the past, your near life experience, you're not in your life, you're like life adjacent. So, and too many of us are in near life experiences. And I realized this, and this brings us to the second part. I realized I was having near life experiences when I lost my father, when my father died. And it was like a wake up call to me realizing that, oh my gosh, death is real. It's like this thing where you want to be in denial about it. But when it happens to somebody that you love and that you feel like it's just a shock, it's a wake up call to reorganize your priorities, to think about what matters to you, to be braver, more authentic, all of these things. And so when my dad died, I started to think about the reality of my life more. And I started to scribble notes in my phone at like 3 a.m. because I couldn't sleep for a while. And I started doing mortality awareness exercises. And they've really helped in a lot of ways. And one of them was I gave a eulogy for my dad, and I started thinking about eulogies, and I thought about, well, what will I want somebody to say about me? And I wrote my eulogy in advance of, obviously, I'm still here, and and I did it because it's weird. We take so much time. We have business mission statements and like 5-year plans and like, New Year's Eve plans, but we don't think about, well, what is my big plan for my life? And that's sort of when you write your eulogy, that's what you're doing. And then I looked at aspirational eulogy me and current me, and I saw a gap. And I thought, what bridge habits do I have to do to get from current me to aspirational eulogy me? And then I kind of created this whole system. And so that's part of how and why I wrote the book. But there's more, but that's like the starter upper kit of why I wrote this book.
That's awesome. You're so right. When people close to us die, especially a parent, I feel like, because they gave us life, right?
Yeah.
It psychologically, it could just, we look at our own mortality. How are we living? What are we doing? Are we happy with who we are? What do we want to do? Did you use did I hear bridge habits? Was
I
that?
call them bridge habits. Yeah. Well, I'm actually, before I wrote this book, I've written a bunch of other books, as you mentioned, and I'm a behavioral change expert. And I like to think about, it's funny. I was just talking to somebody recently, and when we were talking about this book and being afraid of thinking about death, we came up with this thought and just happened that really what you're afraid of is you might actually have to make changes in your life. And in some ways, we're more afraid of the changes we need to make to live the life we want than we are afraid of death itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I did was, after I wake you up to the fact that your life is finite and you're here, then you're not, and you should do everything you can to make the here part as meaningful as possible, I help to then make the change part less scary. First, I make death less scary, and then I make the change part less scary. And the way to do that is with some of the ways I've created bridge habits to help you go from current you to aspirational eulogy you.
Okay. What would some of those, what would that look like? What does that process look like?
So, first of all, one of the things when I was thinking about my eulogy is oh, and by the way, in my book, I give people a quick way to write your eulogy with taking out the creepy crawly part of it, because I give people a template, like, Mad Libs, where you fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
So this is like a Mad Libs type template to write your own eulogy. All you have to do is fill in the blanks.
Okay.
But I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert. It won't ruin the whole thing, but it's just like something interesting that you might find interesting is a lot of those blanks are core values.
Mm.
So to live your best life, you have to first get to know what core values are most important to you, and then make sure that you're really actually living them, consciously choosing them. And then I have people create what I call identity-based statements. So Frank Sinatra, he sang "Doobie Doobie Doo." Great little, song there, but he's a backwards self-empowerment person, because really, instead of doobie doobie doo, it should be do, be do, be do. Because first you have to hone in on your identity, because identity determines your destiny, determines your action. Who you think you are determines what habits you do. Your identity is the puppet master of your habits. Now, we do this unconsciously. If you think I'm a sloppy person, you're going to do the habits of a sloppy person. If you think I'm a neat person, you'll do those habits. If you think I am creative, you're going to be more creative. Identity is really the puppet master of your habits. Yeah. So there's a whole world of study around this, around identity-based habits. And it says that people are more likely to make changes if you link it to your identity. Because what happens also is you have something called cognitive dissonance if you don't do it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think, I'm a loving person or I am a kind person, and then you do something that's not so kind or not so loving. But if you remind yourself, wait a minute, I am a loving person, I am a kind person, then you're more likely to do the kind thing. Mm-hmm. So I have people writing, I am a loving person, and so and then call my mother 3 times a week, or so I. And then if you don't do it, you feel that discomfort, cognitive dissonance kick in. And then you take these habits, these small bridge habits, every day, you do this every day. Instead of just writing your to-do list, you write what I call your to-die list, which is not to be confused with a bucket list. These are small habits that you can do every day, where you put down a core value and you put down like a small habit, or some of them could be big habits, but you space them out. Like, let's say on your eulogy, you say that you wrote a book, but you haven't yet written the book, or that you did charity work, but you haven't. You start to create bridge habits, but you always link a core value with it. So you're more likely to do it.
Uh-huh.
I am brave, so I write my novel. I am confident, so I write my novel. And a lot of the times to get there, what I have people do is I have different prompts. And one of my favorite ones, which I'll give to you and your listeners, is you write at the top of a page, who do I need to become to get everything I want in my life? And then you think about the core values you need to get there. And you can also solve problems in your life like that. Like, let's say you and your kid are fighting, or you and your partner are fighting, or you and an employee or client or boss. You write down, who do I need to become to stop fighting with X, Y, or Z? Or who do I need to become, if any goal, to start running marathon, to whatever your goal is. And then you think backwards to the core value, and then you make it an identity-based statement. And that goes on your to-do list. And these are things that are in the category of important but not urgent. They're the slow simmer ones that you do. But you have to make sure that you do a little of them every day. And that's why they're bridge habits.
Slowly and over time, right?
Yes.
That's how
Yes.
things happen.
Yes.
Wiring the neural pathways, I would assume that's part of this
Absolutely.
thinking, right? Like the mind and the body connected. I'm very big on like mindset is great and knowing stuff is great. Self-knowledge is great. However, if you're not backing it up with action and
Absolutely.
neural pathways, like you have to pick up the phone and call your mom 3 times. Like you
Yes.
actually like do the thing that's going to create the change. I'm in recovery and we say, bring the body, the mind will follow. Right. So it's all
Absolutely.
it's all
Yes.
that doing. It's in the, I love that. Doobie, 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 doobie. It's true. It's so true. Working on the being part. I'm really, really like going through something where I'm just like frustrated. Like I'm just sick and tired of just acting in like that kind of divine masculine energy, the doing, the organizing, the preparing, the planning. Like I'm missing out. So I love this near life experience because I definitely can fall into that. And I would assume this could be hard for people because everybody's so busy. Everybody's so distracted. Everybody's working about making money and paying bills and
Yes.
stuff. Can you speak to it a little bit more?
Absolutely. I have something in a whole chapter in the book about this that I call doing a life audit, where you look to see where the crap and clutter is in your life. Because so many times we say, oh, I just don't have time for doing that, which is sort of like the adult equivalent of the dog ate my homework. Oh, I don't have time. But the true thing underneath that is I'm not making it a priority, because as soon as, I mean, look at how we procrastinate on things. And then when it's like last minute, when we have a deadline, we're more likely to do it. We stop procrastinating. Well, death is the ultimate deadline. So reminding yourself about your mortality helps you to find the time, because mortality awareness creates urgency, and urgency creates action. The more you're really aware, oh my gosh, my life is finite, the more likely you're going to do it. And then also I shed like a spotlight on where you're wasting your time. I have a bunch of prompts in the book that help you to figure that out and help you to get more excited to do the things, because you have a vision of what's going to happen to you. Like if you do it, who aspirational eulogy you is going to be. And you start to feel like there was an interesting study that was done about what happens when you really personify future you, when you can really believe that there's a future you. So they did this study with a bunch of people where they aged them with a face aging app, right? And then they actually got to see what they looked like, when they're 80 or 90, and interact with that 80 or 90-year-old self of them more often and really see it.
Wow.
And the more they understood that they are going to be 80 and 90 at some point, the more they started to save money, because they didn't want to piss off future them. They thought about future them, and then they started to behave better. So when you write your eulogy, that's like the face aging app, like turned up to 11, because you're really knowing there is going to be a future me out there. And they're depending on me not to be an idiot now, so I better like behave at my best. And then you envision, I have so many different studies, not studies, tools in the book that are really about like thinking about how you want to feel on your deathbed. But I do it with humor and gentleness. And I can share some because I'm not like, what is it, Morticia Adams or, I'm not like some goth. I'm just like,
This is reality. This is reality. There's two things. We're born and we die. Those are the only two guarantees in life that we're all going to experience, right?
Yes.
So why do you think people are so afraid of facing their mortality or thinking about that? I mean, I understand like as a human being, our survival instinct is just like it, right? But is there another reason you think why people are just maybe like fear of what's on the other side? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, I actually have a whole chapter on that, which is about all the many reasons, because we are built to deny it. It's weird. We're the only animal that gets the memo, hey, you're going to die someday, because no other animal gets that perk.
Wow, they're not aware.
But we know it. And then what do? We ignore it. But there's something called terror management. Like it literally makes us really anxious to think about it. And also, we are more programmed to be in impulse mode for survival reasons, for some level. Like something happens the moment we have to do it now. So we're more impulse driven for some boring, complicated survival reason.
Yeah.
So we don't think about the future. We're not wired as much for that, even though we know we're going to die. So we react. So we don't get like, from our tigers, chasing days and everything. So we're built for that, which is also why. Okay. So I'm going to back up a little bit. Tell me if I'm going too fast with this.
No, this is great. I'm keeping up. You're good.
Okay. So, I'm going to back up and I'm going to say something else so I can get somewhere else.
Okay.
So in the book, I write about a lot of Stoicism and Aristotle's philosophies, which I tend to like, but I write about it with humor, so it's like accessible and fun even to read. And Aristotle said that you should begin every project with the ends in mind. Everything from something small like a bake sale to that gigantic project called your life. And then he actually said, you don't know if you've lived a good life until you're on your deathbed. And he suggested that you think about how you want to feel on your deathbed and then reverse engineer it so you figure out what to do now, which is sort of what I'm recommending too, because I read ours. I love him.
Sure.
So what he says is the reason why a lot of people are unhappy now and might be unhappy when they're on their deathbeds is because they have the wrong end goal for their life. And he believed that the end goal for life, no matter who you are, no matter where you live, from Timbuktu to Toledo to Toronto, your end goal is the same as my end goal, according to Aristotle, to learn lessons that help you to grow into your best self. And he says that, unfortunately, many people think that the end goal for life is to become the richest person on the planet, to become the sexiest girl on the planet, to have the most followers on the planet, and they're more like ego-driven, status-driven, wealth-driven. And Aristotle was more about soul-driven, growth-driven. And he talked about, as did the Stoics, hedonism versus eudaimonia, which is, hedonism is like, hit and run joy, impulsive joy. Sort of like the enjoy now, struggle more later program for life. And eudaimonia has like a delayed satisfaction, delayed happiness. And it's about struggle a little now, but enjoy a lot more later. So having that courageous conversation with your partner, going to the gym instead of hitting the snooze button 10 times, So, and he said that to live your best life, what he called the good life, you have to choose eudaimonia over hedonism. But he wasn't a prude either. So he said, hey, we've got souls, according to Aristotle,
Yeah.
and the souls kind of enjoy delight, sensory delight.
Sure. Why not? Yeah.
So have fun,
Yeah.
enjoy your life, but in moderation.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. He was like all for having fun, but it was in moderation. And so a lot of people wind up aiming themselves at things that are more superficial and fleeting, the enjoy now, struggle more later mode. And that can mean that come the end of their life, they don't feel like they chase the wrong rabbits. Like they feel like something is this it? Is this all there is? And so I kind of encourage people to embrace your core values and then enjoy more meaningful relationships, more meaningful experiences, and giving back in some way, being of service, and learning the lessons that you need to learn.
I really love that you do this work. Thank you so much for that. I mean, I am keenly aware of like that moment on the deathbed, like I refuse to die with certain regrets. And that pushes me into deeper and deeper levels of healing, really, loving myself, loving all the parts of me that through childhood or messaging or society,
Yes.
whatever it was, right, that started to tell me these things that I internalized about myself, right? But this stuff is not easy. Like I said before, I'm jumping into the next level, which is really in, right? The more you go in, the more we ascend spiritually, our souls, all that. I'm with Aristotle. I do believe that our main drive is this soul evolution, right?
Yes.
That comes with this really unlearning. I feel like we get to a certain point in life and then we kind of spend the rest of the time healing that. We have some kind of cataclysmic event. It usually comes in the form of a death where it wakes us up. I like his mortality wake-up call is what you call it, right? Like this.
Yes, definitely.
I love that you're doing this work because I feel like you're trying to like pull people back from like they're at the edge here. So many people are like, just so for that instant gratification, the dopamine hit, right? Like our world, we're just getting further and further and further into that when we should. I don't like to use the word should, but I think I can safely say we should be going the opposite direction because I can guarantee everybody listening to the show does not want to die with regret. I feel like every human being, if you ask them, do you want to die with regret? Everybody's going to say no, right? So doing this work is so important. So important. And I was thinking about before when you were talking about not thinking about the future, then why aren't we present? Why aren't we like, if we don't want to think about dying in the future, but we're still not here, where are we? We're like in some like Netherland, like neither there nor here. We're like dissociated, like you started talking about before.
Yes, we are.
Side of our body in that near life experience where we're just watching, like we're kind of just watching. It's wow. It's
we avoid pain at any cost. We avoid the discomfort. We cling to our comfort zones, and change. The thing that I said before that I realized today was that we're not only afraid of death, we're afraid of when you realize you're going to die, and then you have to make change. We're then afraid of change.
So what is that going to reveal? What is that going to force me to do?
Exactly.
Here, I'm good. I'm safe. My mom always says, like, once you see something, you get out of denial, then you have to do something about it.
Yes.
You're aware of something. Yes. Now you just, or you're unsettled, right? Once you know, you can't not know. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask, if you had a choice, if you could live 10 years of your life in total bliss, right? No pain whatsoever, total, complete bliss. But at the end of those 10 years, you wouldn't remember anything of it. It would just be wiped out. Would you do it? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I know I'm not the person to ask because I am a masochist.
Oh my God, no, you're not, because you want to learn.
I'm a Gemini, and I feel like this is where my Gemini-ness comes out, where like I'm almost a glutton for pain because I know the rewards on the other side. So I do push myself to grow and to heal, but I'm in that constant push-pull where like I go to those painful places. I don't think life is supposed to be all blissful.
Okay, but my answer might still resonate with you anyway. Okay, you want to know what my answer is?
Yeah, what's your answer?
Okay. And it's based in Stoicism and Aristotle because, like, I love Aristotle. Anyway, um, if you don't remember any of it, then according to Aristotle and the Stoics and all those guys, it's not worth it because
I would say no. My instinct was
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're supposed to. But a lot of people that I pose this to, they say, hell yeah,
Yeah.
But that's like the same as just doing crack. Or you might as well just be in a freaking coma, lying in a hospital bed, because the goal of life is to learn the lessons that help you to grow into your highest level self.
Yeah.
So you need, and in fact, this is interesting. Aristotle said that the most highest level of knowledge is not anything that you get from a book or in our days, Google, because he believed that insight is the highest level of knowledge because insight is the only knowledge that leads to real growth, personal growth. And so you need the pain to get those insights. And if we avoid pain at all costs, then we never grow. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that we're masochists to want some of that pain to examine it.
Yeah.
So this is how I think of it, that life is both a den of pleasure and a laboratory of growth, the den of pleasure, lab of growth. And so many of us were like, I just want to hang out in the den of pleasure. And when things get tough, like in a relationship, or even like getting to the next level of your career or whatever it is, and you have to head into the lab, you don't want to head into the lab. But it can't just be all den of pleasure. It has to be den of pleasure and laboratory of growth. It has to be both.
And I think when people just take that risk, that leap of faith, and go into the laboratory, and then they experience the den of pleasure again, they have a frame of reference, right? They have something to look back and say, well, that sucked, but look at what happened. Look at where I am.
And then I'm not afraid of entering the lab of growth because it's the in my choice between, do you want the enjoy now or struggle more program, or do you want the struggle a little now, enjoy more? And the lab of growth is struggle a little now, but enjoy so much more. That's where like fulfillment is. Because then you're proud of yourself. Like, oh man, I went through that, boy, but that was a gift. That was
that delayed gratification versus the instant gratification.
Yes.
And the instant gratification, you always want more. You always want more. It's never enough. If you have the long game, right? That long view of, that's what retirement's about, right? You enjoy your life, you travel, you have a little bit of money, you're self-assured, you have that wisdom because you've done the work for the first 60 years of whatever years of I hope everybody gets your book and reads it because it is so important, the work that you're doing. Because like, what else? I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I should have been a philosopher, but like, what are we doing here? Like, I often wonder, like, what's the point of us? It has to be for this kind of stuff, for this work.
It is purpose and meaning. And that's where everything that happens to you, you can mine it for that purpose and meaning and the lessons and the insights. And then you walk around less angry because you're like, well, you know what? This taught me this. This gave me this. And there's something that I explained in the book, which I think you and your people might like, which is something called chronological mapping. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. Have you ever heard of it?
Sounds familiar.
It's okay. I'm quirky. I know all this quirky stuff.
I love it. I love you, quirky.
So cool. Okay. There's something called life review therapy, which a lot of end-of-life doulas do, where you try to get closure on some of the like less fun parts of your life, And chronological mapping is part of that. But I'm not an end-of-life doula. I like to say that I'm a middle-of-life doula or a beginning-of-life doula. I don't wait to the end when the runway is a little bit less. I say, do it now when you have more runway to make the changes, and then the bridge happens to get to be a little bit smaller, and it's easier.
Yeah.
So our chronological map is you get this big, and I explain this more in the book, you get this big roll of like almost like butcher paper.
Mhm.
Or you could just tape together like a bunch of like 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. And then you draw a line down the middle, and that's going to be your life. And you're going to look at your life from above and really see the patterns, the lessons, the inciting incidents that helped you to learn something, your hero's journey, all of that.
Yeah.
Kind of like Joseph Campbell, hero's journey kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And then you write down like first love, first heartbreak, this, that, whatever it is that you went through. And then you write next to it different things that you learned, and you do like little doodles of things that they represent. Like if it gave you more ability to love deeper, you put down a little heart, or so you can look at it and see the map of your life and see the patterns in your life. And that can also help you to understand what good came from the bad. And also, if you have a repeat pattern, you'll notice it more. And also that there is a method to life's madness, and that there was something in it. And that can give you the meaning and purpose of your life and help you to release some of the bitterness and the negative dominant narratives that you have going on in your mind.
That's interesting, because I was going to suggest to one of my coaching clients this afternoon, I was just calling it a timeline, but it's very similar to what you're talking about. And it was going to be about like, where were the times where you felt the most alive? And where were the times where you felt dead, right? And can you do more of the stuff that made you feel alive? And why did those things make you feel dead or alive? So similar to what you're talking about. I just didn't call it that. That is a great exercise. I don't think I've actually, I know the events, but to have it down on paper in front in black and white, I think that's really powerful stuff.
When you make it fun by getting like a lot of markers, and you make it colorful, and you doodle, and so it's more fun to do. You can even put like little pictures and tape things, make it feel fun. So you're just being creatively exploratory about things.
And would you suggest that we do it going forward? Like what the rest of the life we'd like it?
Yes. Well, that's the other thing also. When somebody goes through something that is very tragic or traumatic, they could really start to get a negative dominant belief system in it. And so when you see that there's more line coming up ahead of you, you start to believe that nothing is everything. Okay. So when you're in the middle of a trauma, you think that's it, game over. You think of it's permanent and pervasive is what they say. And like you tell yourself a permanent pervasive story. I will never again. This will always have so you have to get rid of those beliefs. But when you see the line going forward, you think, okay, this is just one part of my life. It is not all of my life. And the part cannot be greater than the whole. The whole is greater than the part. And then you see that line just still going, and you're like, okay. And it puts everything into perspective. It's a visual reminder that nothing is everything, that there's more life ahead of you, more runway ahead of you.
Yeah. And empowering. What am I going to do at that time? I am not subject to the things that happened to me and those traumas and things that I thought were going to affect my life forever. Did they? We get so caught up in this foreverness, right? This like, you're best, that persistent, pervasive. Yes, totally. Permanent. And it's not. It's not. When we have, if you're middle-aged, at least you have all the time behind you to look at and see that evidence of like, it was not what I thought it was going to be.
Nope. And then purpose of your life is to learn lessons that help you to grow into your highest potential self. So it is, you mine it for that purpose. You look around in the muck for those little golden nuggets of insight.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, all right, at least I got some golden nuggets out of this,
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Wow. You're so motivating and positive. And speaking of that, so I know that you work with a lot of people to help with this behavioral change. So what would you say is the biggest shift that you've seen in somebody or a major transformation? Do you have a story?
I've had people start totally new careers, but One of mine is that I had a baby late in life. After my dad died, it was a wake up call that I was like very happy with my career. And I kept thinking, family someday, family someday. And that woke me up. So I actually have my dad's death to thank for the birth of my son.
Yeah.
And by weird coincidence, my son was born August 27th, which was the day my dad passed away, but 4 years before my son was born.
Wow.
Well, 4 years later, on the exact day that my dad died, my son was born. Isn't that?
I'm into
Yeah.
all that. I'm a energy healer.
Wow.
Into all that whole psychic world, past life. I'm into all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Mediumship. So I believe in those signs. That's something. There's no
Wow.
coincidences. That's super
Yeah.
cool. It does. These deaths, they just change us in ways that I say sometimes, like without our consent, like they
Yes.
sense this animal. Grief is this animal that just kind of like compels us and forces us to do certain things that were on hold, or maybe we even never even imagined we would do.
Yeah.
I think it's spirit kind of doing that for us. Our spirit, their spirit, the whole thing working together, just
I do too. I think there's definitely something there. And it's like a pattern interrupt. The ultimate, like it just gets you to, it snaps you out of near life experience. Like you're no longer autopilot and you're like, okay, I'm not letting, the autopilot drive my life. I'm taking control of the wheel.
That's why I say grief is a gift. That's why I say that, like after that acute phase, once you can get out of bed, once you stop crying, whatever it is, right? Once you can start living again, then that inspiration, it's like a divine inspiration, right? That's what I wrote my book after my brother died. I healed my marriage. That's still a work in progress, isn't it always, right? Things, I woke up and I was like, what am I doing? Like the acceptable becomes unacceptable. And right?
Absolutely.
And it's like,
absolutely
not live like this. And then that
swaps you awake. It's just like, you can't help it. Definitely.
For sure. So Karen, is there any, since we're getting to the end here, is there any, before I ask you where everybody can find you, get your book, all that good stuff, is there any little tidbit of wisdom? I mean, I'm sure you have a million, but something that comes to the top of your head right now, a little nugget you want to leave us with?
Yeah. I'll share this. This is just like a small paragraph that was in my book, but I wrote about it on Substack and people really seem to like it. So I'm going to share it here. One of my tools, my mortality awareness tools, was I did this a couple years ago. I counted out. This is definitely a slap you awake thing, but I'm going to share it because people really did like it. I figured out how many months I had left to live if I lived to 100, right? So, and I picked 100 because I promised my son I would live to 100. He had asked me to live to 200, but I bargained him down to 100.
Good deal. That's a good deal.
So it was something like, I forgot the exact number, like 437 months left to live. And when you look at that number, it's like, that doesn't look that big. It's like, oh my gosh. So that number alone wakes you up. But then I went out and I bought 437 marbles and I put them in a jar. I have this long jar like this and I put them in, and then I bought an empty jar that sits next to it. And every month I have a ritual. And I take out a marble from the jar that's, filled, but slowly becoming less filled. And I think about, how did I spend this month? What did I do with this month? And I journal about it. I have a bunch of questions, prompts that I answer. And then when I'm done, I plunk the little marble into the empty jar that is now starting to fill up a little bit.
Sure.
And then I look at the marble jar that still has my 400 and umpteen, marbles left. And I think about how I'm going to use that little piece of my next month's life. And I look at it, I pick it up, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with you next month? And I really think about it. And those jars are in my kitchen. They're by the window. And they're actually very pretty marbles. So it's not really morbid. They twinkle in the sunlight coming through the window. And it keeps me accountable to how I'm using my time. And also, it actually helps me to eat healthier because they're in the kitchen. And I'm like, shit, I said I was going to walk my grid.
You're awesome, Karen. That is so cool. So you said people loved that idea, or
I
they
wrote about it, and I have a thing on Substack called the Stand Up Philosopher, because I also love
perfect.
philosophy. And I wrote it up. It was just one paragraph in the book, and I wrote it up, and everybody's like, I'm starting my jar. I'm starting my jar. And I was like, really?
That's awesome.
I was like glad that people didn't find it, too morbid.
Wow.
They found it fun and inspiring. And yeah.
You have a perfect delivery about you to make this work not seem so daunting and scary. That's awesome,
Thank
Karen.
you.
You are awesome. Next time I'm in
You're
New
awesome.
York, I am finding you and we are having coffee because
Oh, great.
favorite people that I get great people on my show. It's just how it works. But you're great. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, follow you, get your book, all that good stuff.
Okay. Thank you. And I love this interview with you.
Yeah, this is great.
I even love the pre-interview before this interview with you. Okay, my name is Karen Salmansohn. Everybody mangles it. They're always going Salmansohn, and I'm always going not salmon, not salmon. So my social media is always not salmon, like not the fish. And then my book is called You're to Die for Life. And I also have a website called you're to die for life.com. I have a website, notsalmon.com. So between the two, you can find me, you can find the book, and the book is sold everywhere, Amazon, you name it, bookstores, Target, whatever. It's in a lot of places.
And how do you work with people? Do you have clients? Do you do coaching clients?
I do.
How do you do that?
I on my website, I actually have something to sign up to work with me one-on-one. And I do life review therapy, including the chronological mapping and some other things. So right on my website, you'll see it if anybody comes there.
Yeah, guys, go check out Karen. She's awesome. If you're just listening on Apple or Spotify, check out the YouTube as well. They're usually slightly different. I usually edit Apple and Spotify a little bit more, but the video is so cool because you just get to see the body language, it's just our essence, and then how our energies work together. So this has been a great interview. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And I look forward to seeing you in person at some point. All right. Take care.
Thank you.